It is Steven here, and in today's video, we are going to be breaking down the must-start wide receivers for your fantasy football teams going into Week 17. First, you know how we do. We're going to take a look at the guys that have been getting it done for your fantasy squads at the highest clip over the past month. And, a couple names that come up to mind here. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, two receivers from the Cincinnati Bengals offense are on that top performing list over the past month combined, guys, right? And obviously last week with the, great performances against the Ravens, that had something to do with it. But, it is just kind of striking that, Jamar Chase, the best receiver for this team potentially, is not on this list with them, right? But all of these guys are great options. Another name that comes out to mind for me is Amon-Ra St. Brown. We had a little concerns with him without Jared Goff, but he still looked fine. So this is always an option you can take a look at, right? Especially if Jared Goff can get back into action. But hey, just, definitely take a look at Seattle, right? They are top 10 against the receiver position this season. So that is one thing to be said, right? But you take a look at a couple of the other guys right there: Deontay Johnson, Hunter Renfrow, Deebo Samuel. These are other guys that you can definitely consider on your lineups, but we're not going to talk about them today. We're going to talk about a few other guys that I want to highlight here as must-start receivers for your fantasy football teams going into Week 17. First, how can I talk about must-start without talking about what John and I perceive as really the Rookie of the Year candidate, Jalen Waddle, right? I think when you're looking at the Rookie Year award over this past season, it's been broken up into kind of like the quarters of the season, right? Because there's been different guys applicable for each quarter, right? But Jalen Waddle is so hot right now. And in my mind, I think he is the best rookie receiver. This guy is an absolute machine. PPR value is out of the roof, man. I mean, he just gets so many targets from Tua. I mean, he is a beautiful weapon to have as an offensive coordinator. You can give it to him out of the backfield on reverses, on screens. You can send him on a deep route. Medium, short route, it doesn't matter. Like, this guy is so versatile in his craft at the receiver position, dating back to Alabama. I love this guy. I would not be surprised if he finishes in the top 3 to 5 receivers in terms of catches on the season too, which is just absolutely remarkable as a rookie receiver, guys. But let's talk about fantasy. Going up against the Tennessee Titans this week, I think it's a beautiful matchup, right? The Titans are around middle of the pack in terms of against, offenses at whole, but, they can do some, they can make some noise as a fantasy defense too, but against a receiver position, man, this is a god-awful group. 31st against the receiver position. They are absolutely a defense that we want to exploit again. And with that said, I think Jalen Waddle is not a good play. He is a fantastic play, guys. And when you look at this guy over the past month, it is no fluke. It is no question about why this is a top 12 receiver, guys. Just to think back in mock draft time or back in off season, you would get a guy like Jalen Waddle so deep in your drafts, and he would finish as a top 12 option at the receiver position for you. Up next, right on the other side of that matchup, guys, A.J. Brown, the big boy in that game against the San Francisco 49ers, man. We had a lot of questions about AJB coming into that matchup, and there was a lot of uncertainty as well if he was even going to play. I mean, it was literally like up to game time for this guy to get cleared coming off of that chest injury, and holy crap, this Titans offense took no time to get him involved. 11 receptions on 16 targets for 150 and a touchdown. I mean, this dude, every time there was a play snap, it just seemed like Tannehill was giving it to him. And the more targets he got, the more catches he got, he continued to get hungrier. And this guy is just a beast among little boys when he's on the field, guys. A beast among little boys. And you talk about this Miami defense. I mean, they have been fantastic for you as a fantasy unit, right? But this defense is actually quite weak against the receiver position, right? 26th on the season against the receiver position for fantasy. I think AJB is going to kill it this week. It's going to be a very fun game, a very competitive game, but both Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins and AJB for the Titans, I think these guys are going to really go at it all day long, see a ton of targets, see a ton of safe floor with all those catches that they're going to get. And also, AJB has massive touchdown and massive ceiling upside. I mean, we saw it last week in a half PPR. He had 26 points, guys, in his first week back, and they are going to max utilize him going into the playoff stretch, guys. This article states here, everybody is sick and tired of Antonio Brown except the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Why don't we clarify that statement to say everybody's sick and tired of Antonio Brown except for fantasy owners and Tom Brady, man? Because Tom Brady is always going to utilize his guy, Antonio Brown. He comes off this long-awaited stint, right? Comes back into action last week against the Carolina Panthers, 15 targets, 10 catches, 100 yards, and he looked great, right? 15 points for a half PPR setting. This is a dude who is going to see an absurd amount of target volume from Tom. With all the injuries that's happened, with all the COVID circulation that's going on in Tampa, Antonio Brown is a dominant weapon for your fantasy teams. Earlier in the season when he was there, man, this was a dude that was trending to being a top 15, top 20 fantasy type of threat at the receiver's position, even though he had all that competition with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Now that those guys are not going to be an issue for him, Tom Brady and him, their chemistry, their relationship, I love it. And I think this is definitely a receiver you want to put in your lineups, whether it's at that wide receiver 2, wide receiver flex spot. I love it, right? I loved AB last week. He came in clutch against the Panthers, and I think he's going to come in clutch against the New York Jets, right? I think Ronald Jones, the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is a great option here, but I think the Bucs are going to throw up some points on this Jets team for sure. It's going to not be a close one in any respect, but at the same time, too, I think Tom Brady's going to utilize a guy like Gronkowski and a guy like Antonio Brown to the max. Up next, we got T. Higgins. This article says T. Higgins has arrived. You know what? I don't like what they're saying in this article, guys. T. Higgins has been here, man. He was dominant last year. He's been a great receiver ever since coming into the league. He's one of my favorite young receivers in the business. He gets overshadowed by Jamar Chase. And I mean, people don't even think about Tyler Boyd as well, who's also at that third spot. I mean, talk about a trio. I mean, this Bengals offense definitely has the best receiving core in the business. I mean, I would love to hear in the comments if you think there's some other offensive units that have better receiver options, right? But man, this receiver combo, it is dangerous with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. This must-start pick for T. Higgins is really a must-start pick for both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I think you guys can absolutely play them both this week. When you look at their stats on the season, these are identical options in terms of what they've done so far this year, right? Obviously, Jamar Chase has had a bigger upside with the touchdowns, but, T. Higgins is only a little bit behind them with 6. Their catches and targets are very similar as well as their yards are, right? But most recently, what we've seen over the last month or so is now that Joe Burrow is taking his attention to a guy like T. Higgins more. He's seeing more targets. He's seeing more catches. We saw 12 catches last week, almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Ravens. I mean, I played against him in fantasy, and let's just say this, I cried for the entire game because every time there was a damn highlight, it was Joe Burrow throwing it to T. Higgins. Holy smokes. But, I'm not saying he's going to come out here and have that kind of performance, but let's go back a couple weeks where he's having 13, 24, and 20 off of a consistent 100-yard performance and going up against Kansas City. I think this is going to be a really fun game. One of the highest over-under predicted scores from Vegas this week as well, which I think is going to matter because I think both these offenses have a lot to play for. This Bengals division is not won yet. They are in the thick of it, and they need to win every game to win this division. That is for sure. And because I think this is a must-win game, I think both teams are going to come out here and just gunsling it to the end, which is definitely going to benefit a guy like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Cooks, he's the up next on the list, guys. In yesterday's stream, on Tuesday's stream, I talked a lot about Brandin Cooks as you guys threw out some questions on him. He was back in practice. He's back with this squad. And the Cooks Meister, he is a dog, right? He can get it done. He is the one bright spot on this offense, right? Outside of maybe Davis Mills potentially being a good quarterback in the future. But I think Brandin Cooks being paired up with Davis Mills this week against the 49ers, who are 25th against the receiver position, is absolutely something I want to utilize, right? I think the 49ers are a great defense this week. I think they're a great defense at large in terms of fantasy, but they've just not been fantastic against a receiver position. I mean, it's very similar to the Dolphins, right? And so that's why we're going to stream against it here. But I also think what Brandin Cooks offers you is not just a good matchup. What he offers you is a very, very steady dose of targets and catches, and he can beat almost any corner out there. I mean, his speed is electrifying. He can get deep on about any other corner too. And I would like to see Josh Norman try to cover Brandin Cooks, right? I expect Brandin Cooks to have a field day and perform very well in this 49ers matchup. Next, we're going to talk about a must-start receiver, Devonta Smith. Probably the least confident guy in this week's video. Very similar to last week, I had DK Metcalf in there, and the confidence was drawn to a touchdown upside, right? I think Devonta Smith is a guy where you can put him in your lineups if you need a big ceiling play here. We've seen it in the past, but what it is tied to mostly is a touchdown, right? He needs that touchdown for him to have a good fantasy day because they just don't need Jalen Hurts to throw the rock around a ton. But, man, it's going to be an attractive option this week against the 30th worst defense against the receiver position in the Washington football team, man. So I think if they let Jalen Hurts cook a little bit, they let him throw a little bit, I definitely think Devonta Smith is going to be the receiver of those targets. And he can do a lot with it. We've seen it all season, right? Last week, 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown against the Giants in that blowout win. He can definitely do that again against the Washington football team. So if you have him on your squad and you need a big type of play at the flex spot or wide receiver 2 spot, I don't mind this, right? But you need to temper your expectations and understand that a touchdown is a massive part of this guy's fantasy value this week. Up next, a very deep option at the receiver position for fantasy this week. KJ Osborn, it has just come out that Adam Thielen is out, put on IR. Really unfortunate for my man, Adam Thielen. You could tell he was banged up in that game, man. I felt terrible for him. He doesn't express a lot of pain when he gets hurt, but damn, he looked banged up. And, KJ Osborn came in right off of that, had 15 fantasy points and looked good. I mean, we've seen this from KJ this year, though, right? This is a good third string receiver for this squad. And he's been a great target volume hog for a guy like Kirk Cousins when given the chance. And we see he had the stinker the week before last, where he had 3 points against the Chicago Bears. But, what we saw before that was 15 and 12 out of this guy with a touchdown, right? What you've been chasing in the past with this guy. But now that Adam Thielen's out of the picture, I think KJ and Justin Jefferson are going to be good plays, right? Obviously, Justin Jefferson's a must-start smash play, but I think KJ is here too. And against Green Bay, this is going to be a game where Kirk's going to be utilized a ton. This is going to be a very close competitive matchup where both teams are fighting to the end. And I think that supports a healthy receiver volume here. And that they're going to be doing their damn best to stop Justin Jefferson. So good luck with that. But with their efforts to do that, I think that's going to leave a lot of opportunity for a guy like Osborn to clean up the weaker coverage. With that said, that has been the must-start wide receivers for your fantasy football teams going into Week 17. Please let us know in the comments what you think about all these receivers, but more importantly, let us know about the receivers that are on your respective fantasy teams or waivers so we can give you some advice and feedback. And don't just stop at the receiver position. Let us know about the quarterback, running back, tight end, kicker, defense situation as well, so we can help your squads get that championship, get that victory on the week. And while you're down there leaving those comments, we encourage you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become a part of the Catch Fam. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and that is all because of the love and support from the Catch Fam. We truly do appreciate all of y'all. With that said, this has been a must-start wide receivers for your fantasy football teams going into Week 17. And remember, you saw it here first at the Catch.